Welcome to Healthy University, where we'll discuss issues and subjects on how you can live a healthier and more productive life. And now, here's your host for Healthy University, Alan Eisenberg.
Hi, this is Alan Eisenberg, and welcome to another episode of Healthy You. Today, I'm really excited again to have my good friend and favorite guest, probably, Dr. Bob Wright from Stressfreenow, and we're going to have a conversation about, being faked out or just, being lied to, and how that affects us and how it's affecting society. Really, I think, when we were talking about it, Bob, that's really what it's about. So, welcome to the show.
Great, Alan. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for agreeing to adjust the topic. Present in the news, everybody's concerned about the fake news. However, fake news would be under the umbrella of not getting faked out. And so I want to thank you for being willing to have a conversation about this larger issue, because it spans everything. It expands business, your personal life, and if you volunteer or just walking down the street, reading a sign. And then I'll start us off with just this brief thing that many years ago, I remember watching the TV show, I think it was called Candid Camera.
Oh,
and so what they did was they went to New York City in front of Grand Central Terminal, which is on 42nd Street. And what they did was they put a stoplight on the sidewalk. And during rush hour, so during the morning rush hour, they wanted to see if they put a stoplight on the sidewalk, how many people would stop. And just because out of habit. And so they put the stoplight there, and then people were stopping on the sidewalk instead of like crossing the street. And then like one person says, "I'm late, I gotta go." They dash across, and then everybody took off, once the one person took off. And then there was so that was one fake out that I remember very strongly, in terms of habit. And then the other was they had a Candid Camera show where they had a guy standing, I forget where he was standing, again, probably on 42nd Street, and he had a sign on him, and it said "free money." And his job was and he had a pile of money, real money, and his job was to, if whatever a person would ask, he would give them that amount. And so people kept walking by because they just thought it wasn't real. It can't be real. Nobody's giving away free money. So finally, one guy comes up to him, and the guy says, "Free money." And he says, "How much he wants?" He says, "Oh, I need $1." So he gives him $1, and the guy dashes off. And so that was what the show. It just shows you in terms of if you're not how we're paying attention, that was a real thing. But everybody thought it was a fake out. It was actually the reverse. So I'll let you start us off on your end, Alan, because I have a doozy of a one that I want to get into.
Well, I think it's really interesting. I think the fact that it was a comedy show that you're talking about, and we were laughing at people. We were laughing at the way people act, and what is funny is that you can do things like that because we're all programmed. Inside us, we sort of have these programmatic, Pavlovian-like things that we'll just react to. It's just sort of auto react within us to do these things. And I think it can be funny, and it can be also very hurtful. So I think there's an interesting dichotomy. So for example, when we read something and it's about somebody and it's blatantly false, or it's about a group, especially in the media, and having studied the media, there will be these things which are like retractions, right? But there are these small prints in the newspaper that you won't even read. So you'll get this information, and you'll not even know it was wrong information. And that's more really a recent thing to me, because when I was brought up in learning media, it was very important to get three sources. You really couldn't report things, and you had to be really careful. And in the world of today's 24-hour news cycle, I think it's interesting how I was just talking about this, how, even going back to 9/11, I remember, the first plane hit, and it's like, oh, a small engine plane hit the World Trade Center. And it wasn't until the second one, but they were reporting so fast that the first report was totally wrong in terms of what was going on. And I just remember that. Like, it just, not that it bothered me, because I think we were all in shock anyway, but that we could be faked out, like anything could be happening. And of course now, we know with things like Photoshop or other tools that, people can make all sorts of things look like they are happening when they're not really happening. And, I wonder how much of that is affecting us, or how much of that makes us gullible, makes us ignorant to the truth sometimes. I see a lot of that on Facebook, where we seem to be ignorant to the truth of what's going on. And because we're able to be faked out so easily today. What do you think of all that?
Well, the thing is, we're venturing into the territory of disinformation and gaslighting. So,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes. So, for example, the first story that you mentioned about the 9/11 plane, so part of the on one level, it's the media competition where to get the scoop, to be first,
Mhm.
because in
Mhm.
terms of how the system of rewards is, that if you're first, and that's across the board. Think about this, who came in second place in the Super Bowl, who came in second place in the NBA championship. Uh, uh, Nobody cares in terms of what the
Mhm.
rewards are, right? So even though it's because the system is set up for the big Kahuna who at the end, so you've got to have the trophy be there can only be number one, and so in terms of the media, they're trying to get that scoop, right? To be the first reporter, the first photographer, the first video thing on the scene and broadcast live. So everything has been speeded up, and so it's quite unfortunate if you think about it. When you mentioned the thing about having three sources, I was like, I had to hold my hand to my eyes and look to the distant past. Oh, that's when Walter Cronkite was was on CBS
Exactly.
News, and it is, if you think about it, it's very sad. And then the issue is what you said about the retraction, that we made a mistake, and then it's on page 98 or page 89, and it is always very small. So one of the things that I think Walter Cronkite and Harry Reasoner and people like that said, I remember them saying, follow a story to the end. So that is one way of not getting faked out.
Mhm.
So, for example, I remember being in the supermarket and seeing on I think it was the National Enquirer or the Star magazine, things that I never read, and now those have become news sources. And it said that it says Ronald Reagan had cancer, right? And then everybody said, "Oh, this is ridiculous," right?
Right.
And then 2 years later, it was reported in like the regular newspapers that Ronald Reagan had cancer, right? And I was like, "Oh, you mean the thing I saw in the Star magazine while I was waiting on the line at the supermarket? You mean that actually turned out to be true?" So part of what's happened now is what I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Who's the guy that's married to Marlo Thomas?
Oh, ooh.
He had a TV show, Phil Donahue.
Oh, Phil Don. Yeah, Phil
Okay,
Don.
Phil Donahue,
You're
because he
going
fell in
back.
love.
You're going in the way
Yeah,
back.
yeah. Well, I'm old school. So Phil Donahue fell in love with Marlo Thomas when he was supposed to be interviewing
Yeah.
her. He was proposing to her practically. So it's a fantastic story. But he did a show where he said that he loathed the day where entertainment was actually going to be the news. And so we're actually there. We're is
Oh,
actually
yeah.
the last 5-10 years. I don't know wherever you want to put the dial is, but what I'm saying is there is so much. It's not just fake news, but just so much where people are playing pranks and doing fake things like the challenges on the internet. And so I believe before the call I had sent you something maybe a couple of weeks ago. I had
Hmm.
heard about this story in New York where in front of the New York Hilton Hotel, which is for our listeners that don't know, the Hilton Hotel is on the Avenue of the Americas, which is also called Sixth Avenue in Manhattan, between 53rd and 54th Street. And so there was a so-called fight between two guys. They jumped out of a car or something like that. I don't remember the details. And they were in. So one of the guys got so enraged that he picked the other guy up and threw him into the fountain in front of the hotel. So I guess there's a
Right.
fountain there. And so the story, a huge crowd had assembled, and Manhattan has so many tourists, so the tourists were doing Facebook live streaming, and they had it on what's that other thing begins with a P that you can that's owned. I just can't think of the name of it right now, but they were broadcasting on social media saying, "Hey, I'm in New York. Look what's happening." And so this thing went viral. This
Yeah.
video of the fight. Turns out that it all was a setup, fake out prank. And the two guys met around the corner, and they were looking at all the hits they're getting on the website
Right. Yeah.
and on social media from. And so there have been a number of things where I remember how disgusted I was, Alan, when I saw that Priceline did that fake thing with the death of Captain Kirk. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was horrified. I was like, and that it was just a a sales thing fake out.
Yeah.
And then just recently, the most recent very bad example of that was this thing with IHOP, where they had all
Oh.
this stuff saying IHOP was changing their name, and I
Right.
didn't really follow that up. But I'm saying, I really didn't frequent IHOP that much, but after seeing that was a faked out ad campaign, misdirect, I remember saying to my wife, I said, "Oh, I'll never go to IHOP again."
Yeah.
They think the customers are stupid.
Yeah, I really, that was, and I don't know why, I fell for it. I fell for it hook, line, and sinker because they said they were going to change their name to IHOB, International House of Burgers. And I was like, I don't know. It did affect me. I mean, it was like, that's horrible. That ruins the whole concept of what the place was. And I was like, you know what? I don't know why I cared about it, right? I don't know why, like, oh, that's, and I was telling everyone, I mean, I was like, this is terrible. I'm not really, I'm not going to go if they change it to IHOB. And
Right. So they lost you as a customer, right?
right. And in the end, it was, it was a fake out. It was like, oh, we were just, Joe, we were just trying to promote our burger line, which is, to me, again, it's this idea that you have a huge gullible group of, I don't know, the way I take it is that they think we're stupid. and
Right.
they think that they're trying to make us feel stupid, like, oh, we fell for that, or we thought about that,
And that's okay. Like, we're sheep to be shorn.
right.
Alan, I just want to cut you off here. In preparation for our show today, I know I had sent this to you. I did a keyword search on fake out, and so I came across this website based out of the UK. It's called the Sophisticated Liars of England, and so this is a YouTube video. And so I came across this unexpectedly because what I saw was that there are all these videos on YouTube called Sophisticated Liars, right? And
Right.
so I watched this. And so what this lady is talking about is how not to get faked out by the person's tone of voice, because they're talking nice and sweet to you, that the person still could be a sociopath or a psychopath, right? And so
Yeah.
she shows how modulating the voice and just by not not being loud with your volume and not being rough with your tone, how that is people can be more easily snookered. And so what she's saying, don't be snookered, to listen underneath the words, all right? And
Yeah.
so I know I did a training about that, because I had been, faked out a couple of times by people, like for example, if somebody says to you, hey, Alan, you're a great guy. Let's get together for lunch. Call me, right? And
Right,
so
right.
now a more serious person, they would have put it in their calendar on a spot or say, hey, Alan, when are you available? Blah, blah, blah. So, but they said, call me. And so what you find out with that person is that in that particular case is a fake out, because they just wanted you to, they just wanted to get away from you and not leave you in a bad mood, right?
Right,
Because I've
exactly.
had that, and because I've been in situations where I said to the person, what was going on? They were there, and they said, oh, Bob, that person really doesn't like you. They just was willing to say whatever it was to disengage the conversation. So I said, oh, they're a sophisticated liar, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
just one of the things I love about New York, Alan, is that when people don't like you in New York, they're like more direct. And they'll just
Yeah,
say,
exactly.
hey, I don't like your face, or like, get away from me, and so whereas in other places, parts of the country, is more direct to say, hey, let's get together sometime, and with no intention. So being from New York, I actually prefer the direct, which is that, hey, listen, I hate your guts. You know what I'm saying? Get away from me.
Yeah.
That works for me. That's the opposite of the fake out, right?
Right. Well,
Instead of the very smooth thing.
and yeah, I mean, I just had a thing at work where, somebody left the company, and then, right before they left, decided to tell me, all the things that they didn't like that I did. I'm like, well,
Oh, really?
why are you waiting to do this now? Why didn't you talk to me? And, again, kind of hurtful, kind of like, yeah, I'm not doing anything that you couldn't have talked to me about. Why do you feel like, now you're leaving and now you're telling me all this stuff? Why couldn't we have talked about this when you were here? And maybe, you wouldn't have left, maybe, whatever. But that's, I think it's just human nature. And, we have to take a quick break, Bob, but when we come back, I'd like to hit on some of the stuff that Sacha Baron Cohen's doing, with the Borats and the one that he just did with a couple of the politicians. And, is that funny, haha, or is it funny, hurtful? So if you'll stay with me, Bob, we'll be right back with more Healthy You.
You're listening to Healthy University with Alan Eisenberg.
Hi, this is Alan Eisenberg from Healthy You. If you're ever looking for a place to host your podcast, try Podcast Garden. Podcast Garden hosts Healthy You and is really reasonable and a great place for your podcast to be hosted. So remember, host your podcast at podcastgarden.com. Hi, welcome back. This is Alan Eisenberg with Healthy You, and I'm here with Dr. Bob Wright, and we're talking about being faked out and the ways that it affects us, or the different methods that people are using to do it, and how prevalent it is in today's world. And as we were going to break, Bob, I don't know if you've seen like Borat or Sacha Baron Cohen's humor that he uses, where he's basically embarrassing people, and then makes movies out of it. And a lot of the times I will laugh at them because it's unbelievable, like, to me, how easily influenced. He talks to politicians, he talks to movie stars, he talks to regular people. And at one point in the Borat movie, he's actually in Salem, Virginia, an area that I actually know, and they're at a rodeo, and he's making people sing a song about how awful the United States is. And they're all doing it, and then they kind of catch on, like, oh, that's not funny. And it's a huge group of people at this thing. And I thought that that was kind of destructive. And it was also kind of not very nice for the people. It made them look really bad. But then he's done some very personal things. He just did something with a politician where he was talking about, I forget what he was talking about, self-defense. He was acting as if he was a self-defense instructor for this politician, and he was saying, if a terrorist, an Arab terrorist ever comes after you, act gay, because they don't want to be around anyone who's gay, and so he makes him practice that, and then he actually has him take his pants down, and he makes them use the N-word, because that they don't like that. They don't like the word that's used, and it's he has him do all this stuff, and then airs it and leaves the guy high and dry. And I don't know.
So my question to you, Alan. Okay, so first of all, I haven't seen any of that. However, I did see in the Wall Street Journal last night that Roy Moore is suing, I believe, the person for $95 million for defamation. Okay, so that's what I thought. So I'm familiar with the Roy Moore story. So the thing is, the immediate question is, why are any of these people following this guy, doing what he's asking them to do? All I could imagine, if somebody came to me, asked me to do a 1/3 of what he's asking, I go, do you have $10,000 for me to before we start? That's if I would even consider doing it. So that is the first question that comes to my mind, is why are these people allowing some person to misdirect them like that? That's the question that I have. In this regard.
You opened up a can of worms with me, so I'm probably sure I know the answer to this, but you know what Milgram's experiment was, right?
Yes, of course. I went to Yale.
Right, of course, yeah. So that was all based in the idea of, could Nazism happen again, right? Why were people who were soldiers in the Nazi Party blindly following a leader and mass executing people, right? So at the heart of Milgram's experiment was trying to answer that question. And so for those in the audience that don't know the experiment, and I think it took place in the late 60s, early 70s, maybe, he brought in, so on a college campus, Yale, right? So
yeah.
He brought in people to try to memorize things they saw. So they would be shown objects or words, and they'd have to repeat them. And then he had them strapped to an electric shock machine. And then he brought in other students who were to administer the shocks every time they got a wrong answer. And on the shock machine were levels. And, so it showed on it that this was a minor shock, major shock, and then, at the end it was like deadly, basically deadly shock. And the people who were being shocked were actually actors, or knew what their part was. So there was no shock being administered, but the test was to see how many people who came in would administer a shock at the deadly level when people got the answer wrong, because they would have to raise it every time the answer was wrong.
And an important thing to just add here is that the participants in that experiment actually believed the person was being shocked.
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
I think that's a key point. Yeah, I just
so
want to make that for the audience.
They were being faked out, right? So they were being faked out to believe that and the end result of the experiment was that the majority of people would administer a deadly shock, because the person that was telling them to do it was a person of authority to them. So it was the professor. And right, so for them, they rationalized it by saying, well, I'm not deciding to do this. This person of authority that I believe in is telling me to do this. And I think that's really at the heart. I was having a discussion with someone today, even about Nazism, and they were asking, how could that happen? And I said, well, a lot of us don't want to have to make the hard decisions in life, or a lot of us like to be told sometimes what to do. And I think when a person comes across as authoritative, so you ask, how is Sacha Baron Cohen doing this? Well, the meeting is set up that this politician was getting training by an expert in the field of anti-terrorism protection training, right? So he's this authority, and the politician wants to have this training to protect himself. So therefore, that same rationale with Milgram's experiment plays out in the things that Sacha Baron Cohen's doing. That's how I see it.
Right. So I understand that. So I guess what it is for me, I'm the kind of person when somebody approaches me with some ridiculous thing, doesn't matter who they are, I'm saying, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous. It's like if I've been in a meeting and people start using profanity, I excuse myself. I know there are a lot of meetings that take place where people are cursing all the time. So they think that that's normative. So I just excused myself and I said, I'm in the wrong place. That's not for me. So I know. So that's my answer. So if I had been that person, and once the person says something that is for my values, and I think that this is where what we're really talking about here, that we're verging into the realm of beliefs and values. So if a person if their values are such that this wouldn't be a big deal, like if I'm in a meeting and somebody says drop your pants, so I would drop my pants in a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I
so
me,
do you understand what I'm saying? No. So that's what I'm saying. Because somebody is an expert, so that is my reaction to that. So what I'm saying is that Alan, I think that I'm in an outlier position, and because I watch very little TV and almost no movies except the old stuff. So the thing is that at least for me, that's just all beyond the pale. But I want to ask you about this. I came across this article in the Wall Street Journal. Let's see, this is dated August 31st. That's pretty recent, right? August 31st, 2018.
Yeah, we're taping this on.
The title of the article says, yes, so it says tech support scams prompt Google to act. Wall Street Journal investigation finds fraudsters use Google search ads to masquerade as authorized service agents for companies such as Apple. So when I saw that, I was like, wow. So because when you go to get something fixed, you're always looking for the authorized agent, right? It doesn't matter if your TV, stereo, your car, or whatever. Hey, it's an authorized Mercedes dealer, it's an authorized Volkswagen dealer, right?
Right. Of course,
it's an authorized Maytag to get your washing machine fixed. And so to see this, and then I'm just thinking that this is on the internet, and so what they're saying is that they fake Google out. And so not only is the customer faked out, but Google is actually faked out because it's their algorithm. If the algorithm, and they're taking in the money But and so this is like a con artist dream. I remember seeing another one of these things. They said that the people that were locksmiths, you know, like when you get locked out of your car or your house, that there were people masquerading as locksmiths, and they actually were burglars
Oh yeah, yeah.
because they were using Google Ads. So I actually don't even know what to say in that regard, other than that how is that for a fake out?
Well,
What's your
well,
reaction?
well. I'll tell you. I mean, I just talked with a neighbor, and they gave me the name. You know, they needed something fixed in their house, so they called this person who is a licensed professional, right? So they have a license, they're bonded, all of these things, right? And the person shows up, and she's recently widowed, and this is a problem, because I know even with my mother, who my father recently died, starts getting these calls from these people. um, so this supposedly licensed professional um, doesn't do much work and starts demanding money. So she's smart enough to kick him out, and then she goes to find out that other people have been trolled, but not by the same guy. So what's happened is this licensed professional contractor has is selling his license and name to other people so they can do business. So you have all of these people with the name John Smith, licensed contractor, running around our neighborhood trying to get work. And the John Smith who's the actual licensed contractor is not the guy that's showing up.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah. And so that's really happening. And then they're trying again, it's like you said, burglarize, rob. I know stories of people, particularly again, with that victimize the elderly, where they had, this was a friend of mine's mother, they would come by for months. This went on, do very little work, drive her to the ATM and make her take out money and give it to them. And she just wasn't, she was being faked out, and she was being, and it took until her son, my friend, caught on to it, and went after them, and then they disappeared, like, once the scam was over, then all of a sudden they disappeared into the nether region. It's happening. I mean, this is what's happening, and you think, oh, that's not going to happen to me, or it's not going to happen to Google, or it's not going to happen to whatever. But Bob, I almost question you. I believe that I'm not that gullible. I believe I'm pretty intelligent, but I think I could be faked out. I think that, given the right circumstances and the right conditions, yeah. I think we're all susceptible to having that happen.
Well, Alan, you're 500% correct, because while you were talking, I just did a quick search and I came across this website named Oyster.com, and basically what they're showing you, they're telling you on the hotel sites, how not to get faked out by the picture. It says Oyster visits hotels in person, takes hundreds of photos of each, and then posts them so that our visitors know exactly what they're booking into. There's a huge difference between the photos we take and the ones on other travel websites. So if that pool, which looks so sparkling blue on their shot, isn't exactly azure, we'll show you. So now I scroll down. So they've got a picture of a hotel in the Canary Islands, which, that's a fantasy destination for most people. So the picture shows wine glasses with sparkling waters, huge strawberries, etc., and a plate with lobster. The actual reality photo, it looks like a youth hostel. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where they show in Cancun photo fake out. They're in this gorgeous pool, and then they show the real pool. It looks like the wall was never painted, etc. It's just awful. And then they go from place to place, showing you Istanbul, etc. And so the reason I brought this up for our audience is that I was thinking about a hotel situation where Christine and I got faked out, we needed to travel at some point. And you know, when you're traveling, when there's like a convention or something like that, even a 1-star hotel could be $300. I remember we were all like, how could the Motel 6 be $300? You know what I'm saying? To stay one night. And so our general rule was never to stay at less than a 3-star hotel. So in this particular case, we took a 2.5-star hotel, and you know how that goes, Alan. When you go against you go against your rules, often something bad happens. So here's the thing: I said to my wife, I said, "Honey, look, this hotel's not that bad." I said, it's 2.5 stars, and they have a spa, right? So when we get to the hotel, I said to the lady as we're checking in, I said, because, you know, we could see, and when we drove up, the hotel was kind of dingy. It was next to like you know, where they park trucks and a truck stop and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this doesn't look anything like what the website. So I said, let me ask the woman at the front desk where the spa is, so that at least I could feel better. I'm taking to my wife, and there's at least a spa. And so the lady at the front desk, she says, oh, she says, I don't know why they have that picture there on the website. She said, we haven't had a spa in this hotel in over 10 years. How's that for being faked out?
Oh, yeah.
So the upside was that when we got, and also the hotel had no elevator, so we're carrying our bags up to the second floor. But the positive upside was, out of all the hotels that we've have ever stayed in, the one redeeming feature that the room had, it had the most comfortable lazy boy either Christine and I had ever been in. And because the chair, it turned up like 70 degrees, and we were like, oh, this chair is, and so we would laugh and we'd say, yeah, we got faked out by the hotel room. And to tell you how good it was, Alan, we came back home, we went to the furniture store, because we wrote down the information trying to see if we could find that chair. And we did find the chair, but we couldn't believe the price. I think it was like $2,500. So we were like faked out again, right? So, but that is a good example where how disappointing is that, you know, you drive, you know, 400 miles or 300 miles in a day, and all you want to do is like, listen, I just want to take a hot shower, eat, and be in a comfortable bed. And then what you find out is that, you know, the hotel that, you know, you bought online, the photos, and so that's where, you know, reading the reviews on TripAdvisor and some of these other sites can help a person out. Not always, because, you know, sometimes, you know, what I've seen is that they were saying that sometimes you have people putting up negative reviews when it's not really negative and it's by a competitor. And I can remember one particular case. We booked a 3.5-star hotel in Virginia Beach, and it was right on the beach. And the rate, I think it was like around $60 a night. And so I was like, okay, when I said, okay, we got a fantastic deal, but then I started reading the reviews, and I was like, uh-oh. I mean, some of the reviews are really bad, right? So I picked up the phone, and I called and asked to speak to the front desk manager, because I said, hey, you know, I just did a bid on Priceline, and I got your hotel, or it was Hotwire, I don't remember, and I was really excited until I started reading the reviews. I said, you know, and they said, oh, you know, those reviews that you're reading, that's when the spring break crowd was here, and so the hotel was overrun by, you know, by college students or spring break people. And then I started to look. So then what I did, I said, okay, so I said, well, there's nothing actually wrong with your health. Absolutely not. You know, this is just, you know, people, maybe the first time they've ever stayed in the hotel without their parents, right? And they're complaining. And, you know, and so the thing is, what I did then was that I went back to the thing, and I filtered the views by, you know, business people, and then couples on a honeymoon or stuff like that. And then what I saw was, oh, all these 1-star reviews are by these people that don't know what they're talking about, and so
Right.
and then when we got to the hotel, we were very lucky that I had said to the lady, we're coming here for a special thing, and we got an upgrade to a suite. So it was very sweet,
Cool.
right?
Yeah. The sweet.
So so that is the thing. The bottom line for our audience is to what I would say, we're in a world now. There is no one way to know anymore. At least it does not appear that. You could be reading reviews and the reviews are all fake. You're looking at the pictures on the website. The pictures are fake, or real, or kind of real. A person that's going to a hotel and the thing that attracted them to that hotel, actually the deciding feature could have been the swimming pool. They get there and then the swimming pool's under construction.
Right. Yeah.
Right. How disappointed is that person? Or in our case, I remember one of the worst hotel experiences that Christine and I ever had. We were in Virginia Beach staying at a 4-star hotel, and we just were it was mind-boggling because we said, oh, we got such a fantastic deal, a 4-star hotel for this price. And it was one of the worst experiences of our lives in a hotel, because the staying at the hotel was the national cheerleaders convention or whatever it was. And so we would get in the elevator, and the girls, at least some of them, they thought it was funny. They would press all the buttons
Oh yeah,
on an elevator, and I forget how many floors this elevator had, maybe 16 floors. I mean, this, 20 floors. I don't remember but there were a lot of floors. And I remember in this hotel, we actually, because they kept pressing all the buttons, I actually got stuck in one of the elevators with a person. And the worst part was that the kids that were the chaperones, when I was in the elevator, they thought it was funny that the kids were pressing all the buttons. They said, oh, we did that when we used to be cheerleaders or whatever. So it was very disappointing. We felt faked out that we got a great rate for a 4-star, but there was this other thing. And so I don't know, other than if we had been, now I know to check. You need to check the Visitors and Conventions Bureau. You need to just scour to find out if there's anything going on. And but that was very disappointing for us. Because we always loved going to Virginia Beach, and that was a real downer. Getting stuck in the elevator. That's nobody wants to get stuck in the elevator.
Right.
And then when we pressed the button, the emergency button to talk to the front desk, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So it was only because the woman that was in the elevator with me, she had a cell phone, and that's how we were. I think we were in the elevator for about a little over a half hour.
Yeah, fun stuff. And I think, that's going to be kind of like I think my last comment on this, because we got to come to the end on the show, is recently, and this is someone I know, I don't want to, put them out there who they are, but, it was the typical thing that you can see on Facebook where there's, typically political, typically leaning heavily to the right or heavily to the left, and just doesn't seem to sound right. But they post it, and I didn't, but someone else called them out on it. They said, hey, I went to Snopes.com, and if you know Snopes.com, they're the ones who try to debunk, right, all of these fake news stories. And it's not right. And the person who posted it wrote back, she goes, but it's a trusted source that sent it to me. And the other person said, okay, but, according to, these sources, this is propaganda and it's not right. And the other person's like, well, it's a trusted source, I believe them. And I just sat there and I thought, I know this person. Like, this person who's writing, it's a trusted source, I know them. I don't care that, you have a real source that says it's bunk and it doesn't even sound legitimate. It's already questionable in nature. they're not going to give up the ghost on it. They're gonna say they believe it because they want to believe it. They
Right. So you're saying that because it's from for them what is a trusted source, they believe it automatically whether it's true or not.
right. And what's scary again, and going back to sort of my ending about Milgram's experiment and Nazism and all these things is, this isn't new. This isn't new to be faked out and to be led to believe one thing and then see the other. And I think we live in an age today where it's happening actually a lot, which is, I think, why we're having this conversation. And I often wonder, when you say, hey, I'm smarter than that, and I say, hey, I'm smarter than that, I wouldn't take my pants down, I wouldn't do these things. Why is it that we do see people doing it? Why is it that, and it's a rhetorical question there. I don't think there is an answer. It's that we can be influenced if we want to be, and if we choose to be. And we see that with cult leaders, very, very, and you mentioned, serial killers or whatever. The typical profile of a serial killer is that they're very charismatic, that they're people you want to be around, you want to trust by the way they approach you. And I think that's a very scary part of the reality. And I'll just conclude with that. I think, that's something to question for people now. And I think the biggest thing is you have to question yourself. Like, what am I, what am I gullible to? What am I, possibly.
So I just want to make a correction, Alan. I didn't say anything about serial killers. What I said was about sociopaths and psychopaths.
Oh yeah,
so,
you're right. You're right.
I guess you could put the yeah. So the thing is, on a personal note, my concern is that the fake outs that are done to children. I know there were, like, for example, in a school setting, you go to your guidance counselor. And so in my personal experience, and I'm sure this has happened to many people, my guidance counselor in junior high school lied to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
So my point is, by him lying to me, it forced me to take an action that I would not have taken. And so that actually changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really the larger issue when people are getting faked out, that how does that change your behavior or cause you to make a decision that you would not have made, or or make a choice, the choice that you would have made, you made an alternate choice. I'm saying that's the real danger. Mm-hmm. In my particular case, I went to Stuyvesant High School. And so I went to a non-truncated junior high school. And when I went to my guidance counselor in 8th grade, I asked him, I told him I was thinking of taking the test to go to Stuyvesant in 9th grade. And he told me this, which was a lie. He said, if you take the test in 8th grade and you don't pass it, you cannot take it again in 9th grade. So, because there were 2 doorways, you could enter in 9th or 10th. So that when I ended up going to Stuyvesant in the 10th grade, I found out that wasn't true. And that guidance counselor knew it. So why did he tell me that? Because I was in a non-truncated junior high school and I was in the SP class. And so in terms of how the funding works, if all of the smart students from the school go to high school in the 9th grade, well, guess what? The test scores for the district plummet, right?
Right, exactly.
But that doesn't help the individual students. So it all worked out. I ended up going to Stuyvesant in the 10th grade. But if I had taken the test in the 9th grade, in the 8th grade, I would have gone in the 9th grade. And so that would have been a different experience. Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm grateful that I actually, went to the school in the 10th grade. But what I'm saying I was faked out by my guidance counselor. He lied to me. And yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So here for our audience, so you say, so because Alan, we're both about solutions, right?
Yeah.
How can we better and how can you not be faked out? So knowing what I know now, how could I have prevented being faked out by my guidance counselor? Okay, so the first thing would be I could call the school and ask, can you
Mm-hmm.
take the test in 8th grade and 9th grade? And then the answer would have been yes. And that would have been the end of it. Or if my parents had been savvy enough to know that or check for me, then that would have been fine. Also, my stepbrother had gone to Stuyvesant. It never occurred for me to ask him, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, because I was 13 years old. So I'm just looking back. So I'm saying to the audience, when you look back and you realize a situation you been faked out, is to telescope out and then figure out, okay, let me deconstruct this and see, okay, what if I knew then what I know now, what could I have done, and then can I put this in place as a template to for the future to make sure I don't get faked out. Because the thing is, I need to check, I need to double check, I need to triple check, and we have to make sure that we're talking to the right sources. Like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
person that had the contractor come in to do work that was a fake contractor, the person needed to do some more checking, and that's really unfortunate. How do you prevent that? The person's was selling, what'd you say, selling their contractor's license.
Right. Yeah, they were selling their contractor's license to unlicensed people so that they could get work.
Oh my
It was a
God!
total scam.
Wow. So that is deep, and so one of the ways you what is that, the this something list, Charlotte's List or something like that, the place that they have the place where you could check contractors. What's that called? Something list. I can't.
Yeah.
They were out of Charlotte, North Carolina originally. But so audience will probably know. But there's sites like Angie's List. Okay, and so that would be like a kind of place that you would check, because then hopefully people would have posted for that. And then this is where we just have to really do due diligence at a high level, and basically we have to slow down, because what happens is that usually the person that's coming in like that is a fast talking person.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get the money out of the person fast. So we're like, hey, there's no rush here. Let me slow down. Let me do some checking. And so, I'll end on this note, Alan. I had my own serious fake out. I'm here in Florida without a car. I flew from Newark into Fort Lauderdale Airport, and I had a Priceline car rental with Hertz. I get to the Fort Lauderdale Airport. It is 1:30 in the morning on a holiday weekend. My car rental is prepaid. They go to swipe my credit card, and it gets denied. Now, my credit card is good and my credit limit is good. So how is it that the rental was denied at the airport level? So now I got on I went to the 800 number on my phone credit card, called, verified so that the rental agent could hear that I had more than enough money on my credit limit. Then I called the Hertz 800 number, right? And speak to the call center rep. They, because I said the local place here saying they can't swipe the deposit. The 800 call center rep is able to swipe the deposit because my credit card is valid. However, still, they could not override the local Hertz system in the airport. So what I was told is that, when the manager comes in the morning, they can do a manual override, and that's 7 o'clock. So it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and Alan, I just didn't feel it was a good idea to sleep in the airport. So I went home. I took a Lyft ride home, and so early afternoon I called. And make a long story short, what happened was that even though my credit card was valid, even though I had money on my limit, Hertz still would not give me the car. And even though the corporate Hertz call center had swiped the money, the local branch told them that they were wrong, that the manager could not do a manual override, right? And so the good news is that when I called Priceline with my non-refundable purchase, they were understanding and they refunded the rental minus I think it was a $12 cancellation fee. So I was very happy with that. And then to add insult to injury, I got the credit card company and Hertz on the phone so I could get my $200 back. And they're saying, the credit card company is saying, well, because you never took possession of the car, there's no rental number associated with it. So it's going to take 45 to 60 days for me to get my my deposit back. Yeah. So here's the thing, why I'm telling the audience this story. So as you can imagine, I was very unhappy because I came down to Florida to handle the paperwork associated with my wife passing away. So, coming to the airport, and that's the last thing I need. I didn't get a car. And I just want to say to the audience, this is the first time I've ever been at a car rental counter since the 1970s, and I left without a vehicle. But here's the thing. So I said, okay, I'm going to write a letter to the CEO of Hertz. And so what I went on the internet and I typed in address for corporate headquarters of Hertz. And when I did that, all these complaint sites came up, Alan. There were hundreds of complaints against Hertz about people going to the terminal, not getting the car. And the worst one I saw was someone who got a car from Hertz because they're saying Hertz is not maintaining the cars. And they got on the highway and spiders were coming down, hundreds of spiders were coming down the windshield inside the car. So the guy is smacking the spiders while he's driving, and then he crashes the car. Well, when I saw that, I said, maybe this particular fake out is not so bad because, and so I said to a friend jokingly, I said, maybe this means I should be shorting Hertz stock. So I went and I just took a look at the price history of Hertz Corp. And guess what? To my total shock and chagrin, I found Hertz Corporation stock in September 2016 was selling for $147 a share. And in 2018, Hertz stock is selling for $17 a share. Okay. Wow. So maybe it was $140.75. That's what it. In September 2016, Hertz stock was selling for $140.75, and today it's selling for $17. So I feel like I got out with my skin. But I want to thank you so much for having me on as your guest today, Alan. And we can continue this with another podcast where we're actually talking about fake news.
Yeah, well, it's always great to talk to you. You've always got so much input and insight, and I do think this is an important issue. Because people can be hurt. I mean, I think we didn't discuss it a lot, and that's okay. But people can be hurt by these fake outs, and that's always a concern. So. First of all, Bob, thanks for being on the show. As usual, you're a great person to get to talk to, and you have so much to talk about. It's, I know we can just keep doing show after show after show, or we could do this for another 2 hours. But we do have to go. So really, thank you for being on the show.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. And until next time, be safe and be well.
Okay. And this is Alan Eisenberg with Healthy You. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Healthy University, brought to you by Bullying Recovery, LLC. This podcast does not replace the need for medical advice, professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or any other individual. The information provided here or through linkages to other sites is not a substitute for medical or professional care, and you should not use the information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. Join us next time for more Healthy University.